Welcome to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast, brought to you by Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, where we are on a mission to help the highest caliber physicians achieve wealth that matters. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. I'm Lauren Oschman, and I'm here with my partner, Forrest Friedow. This is actually a part 2, so hopefully you're coming to us on the tail end of having listened to our conversation about our mission to help the highest caliber physicians achieve wealth that matters. If you haven't listened to that episode, I highly recommend it. This is going to be a little bit of a continuation of a similar conversation. We're really trying to take you all kind of behind the curtain here at Vestia so that you can understand what our mission is and how we've set things up at the firm so that our team is able to deliver the kind of service that we need to in order to fulfill that mission with the doctors that we work with. So this conversation, we're going to be talking about, we have 5 core values at our firm. They are give a surplus, never let them guess, raise your hand, model wealth that matters, and fly the V formation. I said earlier when we were talking about this in preparation, it's kind of a joke around here. If you ask me what my favorite value is, it's whichever one we're talking about at the time. That's how much I love all of them and how core they are really to how we interact here as a team at Vestia, how we serve our clients. I thought maybe before we dive in and talk about each value kind of one by one and how doctors see that show up and how our team embodies those values. Forrest, you had some really interesting points when we were talking before this about how, if you're a physician and you're starting a medical practice, you're running a medical practice, how could you be thinking about the values or kind of having core values for your medical practice and why that might be important?
If you are a doctor who is starting a brand new practice, perhaps you've identified the space, hopefully you haven't picked out furniture or even what it looks like inside yet. Or if you have employees that you want to bring on, and employees yet to hire, I would challenge you to open the door of that space and start to vision the experience that you want your patient to have as she or he walks through the door. What do they see? What do they feel? What do they smell? What do they hear? What is going to bring that person into your practice in a way that puts them at ease, that makes them feel welcome, comfortable, right? All those things that, especially if you're in a high stakes, practice where you're talking potentially about very difficult things.
Yeah.
And then I want you to think, who is the first individual that they encounter? And what is the experience that they're going to have? Are they going to be welcomed? What is the welcome going to look like? How are those intake forms designed?
Yeah.
I want you to just imagine that whole patient experience. And when you're done with that, how then do they leave the practice? What is the experience that they have leaving the practice? And once you have that vision in your mind, if you want to craft a vision statement, great. Might not be necessary. I think it's a wise idea because I think a vision statement will then drive oftentimes the values, but the whole exercise of taking yourself through that patient experience will help determine not only how you decorate, how you hire, how you set up the space, right? From a noise perspective, from a comfort perspective. What is it that I or my partners and I value? Do we value respect? Do we value confidentiality, of course. Do we value putting people at ease? Do we value
Going the extra mile.
Yeah, going the extra mile. I think that's the perfect way to say it. And I think I won't go on with a list of potential ideas because I think ultimately, just like our values are so part of our ethos, that they didn't spring from nowhere. They came from the minds of really great people who said, this is what we want our firm to be like.
And it really started it was kind of a whiteboard session going through exactly what you're talking about, thinking what are the key elements of how a physician is served at Vestia. So that was what we started with, and we just threw words on the board. And what we found was that there were themes that emerged. And so we were able to see where those themes kind of converged, and then we put words to them that were authentic to us. Because I think sometimes people brush past the part of developing the core values or really focusing on the core values, because everyone can probably think of an organization that they've been a part of at some point where you walk in and the values are on the wall. And it is some of those words like trust, integrity, respect. And sometimes those are the last things that you feel interacting or being a part of that organization. And so there is this element of values that can be window dressing. At Vestia, they're real. And they're real because they are truly the pillar of everything we do. So when we're hiring a new employee, the interview process starts with a video from me talking them through our values. They send a video back to us where they tell us why they fit those values. Examples are always a bonus. Then, if we like them based on that and their resume, they go through an interview process that is, are you qualified and capable of actually doing the technical components of the job? And then the final part of the process is an in-person interview with me where I am talking about the values again, asking them for very specific examples of when they have displayed these in their own life, be that professionally, personally, because we have to feel really confident that every team member we are bringing on is going to deliver the experience that physicians should have at Vestia. And so if we can't envision that new employee giving a surplus, never letting them guess, raising their hand, modeling wealth that matters, flying the V formation, then we can't bring them onto the team because it will ultimately detract from what is so wonderful and so essential about the way that we all work together and ultimately the way that we're able to trust each other to do really great work together.
Absolutely. And I think that process of reinforcing, right, the experience that you want your patients, if you're the physician, your clients, if you're the partners at Vestia, and our team members, because they want the exact same thing, it's just tantamount. It is the thing that we get up every day and to do, and it drives not only our hiring, it drives our development. It drives our calibration process for when we evaluate our employees. It's every
Our
recognition. We have values awards nominated by everyone in the firm. And even if you're not the award winner, you get this beautiful letter from Lauren as our CEO with all of the different mentions about you in each one of those categories. And we feel so passionately about it that it is just part of everything we do.
I love it. So let's dive in
and
talk about these values. Because I think us talking through ours, number one, will help to give you a picture of how we serve physicians, which I think is really helpful if you've been listening to the show for a while and hearing some of our thoughts on financial things and physician stories and all of that. I want to let you know a little bit more about who we are. But then two, if you're in that position where you're like, this sounds intriguing and maybe I should have an element of this in my medical practice, this will maybe provide some inspiration to you to start thinking about some of that.
Absolutely.
So the first value is give a surplus. This is that idea of going the extra mile. This is thinking about how could I make this a little bit easier? Like, how could I do a little bit more? How could I make this a little bit easier for my coworkers, for the client on the other side? Things like that. So, do you have an example that sticks out for you, Forrest, where you've seen this?
100%. This is one that I see in our team members in their interactions with each other. I see it in our collaboration as partners, how we share knowledge, how we help support each other with our particular specializations or areas of expertise. Because when you get Lauren as your advisor, you don't just get Lauren and her team, you get the collective knowledge of all the partners and team members at Vestia.
Trust.
Yeah, and that is critical. But when I think of give a surplus, I see it as two different I see it through two different lenses. The first one is, how do we give a surplus to our clients? And what I see our team members doing is that all the time.
I often use the example in this realm of one of our client service administrators. Clients had gotten their estate planning documents done, and it was a situation where it was done virtually. And so the attorney had gotten all of the documents prepared. Their office emailed over hundreds of pages of documents that needed to be initialed, signed, all of that to this physician couple. And us knowing how busy physicians are, the client service administrators were copied just as an FYI, our Vestia team member. And she looked at it and she was like, there's no way. Like, I don't want them to have to take the time to sort through this, figure this out. And so she took it upon herself to print everything out, to flag, to highlight, to prepare the package, to get it delivered to the physicians so that they could go through it. She even served as their witness and then delivered it back to the attorney's office because she knew how important that was. She very well could have done what our team does really well and follow up regularly and have it stay top of mind for that couple. And because she understands doctors' busy lives so well, and because she knew this is going to take so long to get done, just because life is so busy and it's so important that we get it done, she took it upon herself to give that surplus and give the extra to make sure that it got done.
Yeah, no, it's a great example. I think of team members. We have an agenda, right, for our meetings, and so I'll start a Zoom meeting, and typically I'll have a team member there, and we have this agenda, but there are all these to-dos, and this physician is so busy at work and in their personal life, and for them to focus on the tasks, we now have a captive audience. I've got another meeting scheduled. And so how do we then get through our agenda, but also turn it into a working meeting where our team member can take the time to actually walk them through each one of those steps, take them to each one of those websites.
Yeah.
Send over the two-factor if that's necessary for linking things together, whatever is happening. And so in that particular example, the way that the team member gave the surplus was, we should get through the agenda because there are some important things on this agenda for you, right? The physician in this particular case that you really wanted to address today. I have time to stay on, and I can get another team member to join Forrest in that next meeting. And so it's how do we, right, collectively as an organization, help our individual physicians get their things done. And we know that those things are important. And so in many cases, like the example that you gave, our employees will, and I don't even like to say the word employees, I think it's team members. I mean, we really are a team, and it's a great team. how do we, right, get you through all of these things that we know you need to do, and understand the many competing forces, right, that are preventing it from getting done.
And I would argue that's one of the unique things about our firm and our team for physicians, because I know a lot of advisors that are at other firms and they're great firms and they serve clients really well. They don't have a problem with their typical client assigning that list of to-dos and those clients finding time to get it done. And our team knows physicians so well. We understand how busy their lives are. And so we know if we're not giving that surplus, we're not doing what doctors need us to do.
Absolutely. If your day begins at 4 and you're scrubbing in before the sun is up to start a really busy day of back-to-back surgeries, right? You've got this great first assist, typically, in the OR. And then your day is ending who knows when, right? And then you've got potentially a spouse, significant other, or family members at home, children, right, that you would like to see and hear about their day. Is how can, right, we be your first assist in all of these other areas that are important to you and that we know need to be done for you, for your family, for your practice, however we're helping you.
Absolutely. I think that dovetails really nicely into the second of our values, which is never let them guess. So this one is about, you mentioned radical candor earlier. So it's like communicating frequently, communicating candidly, sharing things in the moment that need to be shared that helps us all be better. That doesn't leave us guessing, which is the essence of that value. The other piece of it is really good communication. And again, for very busy doctors, this is really important because there is so much that we are handling. And if we're not communicating that, I mean, how many things have you delegated, but then it stays in the back of your mind and you're kind of wondering if it's getting done, or you know there's a deadline and so you're like, wait, when was that deadline? I think it was coming up. I think so-and-so was handling it, but I don't know because I haven't heard back. And so then you've delegated, but you have not absolved yourself of responsibility or giving that any kind of bandwidth. And so the essence of never let them guess is not only are we taking things off your plate, like you illustrated so well, we are also communicating with you clearly and frequently so that you know exactly what we have done. And you also know, because sometimes there are pieces of that puzzle that we cannot do for you. And so you know exactly what those things are. And you know that the only things we're asking you to do are those that we literally can't.
The introduction of Radical Candor to our firm, for me, and I know you had a similar experience, we were a bit uneasy about it. But because of connections that we have in other industry, that this came to us and we looked at it and we said, this is scary, but this will make us better. And when we were talking about how this would make us better, you and I were talking about rounds and how medical students, residents, and fellows are taught to do their job. It isn't necessarily warm and fuzzy. It's not necessarily cruel, but it is very direct. What would you do? Give me a quick overview of the patient. How would you treat this patient? If there's something amiss, would you think of this, right? Or if they want to educate about, well, if this had happened, how would you have handled this, right? That what we've discovered is that elite teams, and so that's internal to Vestia, and that's also the team that serves our physician clients, are not only able to say, hey, you did a really great job in front of the rest of the group, but you missed on this particular thing. And it's not done from a place to shame you. It's not done from a place to make you feel bad. It's to make you better. It's to make you a better team member, just like you're doing if you're a longtime practicing physician who's teaching fellows or residents or medical students to make them ultimately better physicians.
Yeah, I've said for years, we can't say we won't have issues. We can't say we won't make mistakes because that is part of being human and that's part of learning and growing. And so that, I mean, I would argue that those things are essential. We can say we won't have the same ones twice.
Yes.
And that's where that frequent, transparent communication, when we do have the miss, to take the time to go back through and say, what have we learned and what will we do differently next time to prevent this is so important. And that is, there's no shame in that. That's the ability to grow. That's the ability to learn. That's how our team continues to get better at what they do serving doctors top to bottom. Like I have been blown away by the growth in our team members, particularly over the last 12 to 18 months. A lot of the same team members and the capabilities are so much more, and they were pretty good to start with. So the ability to really start thinking about how do elite teams operate, how do groups like doctors who work in high stakes environments, how do they grow and learn and communicate, and taking the best of that and applying that to how we do things at Vestia has been, I think, huge credit to the reason that we've seen that growth.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question that we understand physicians, right? You and I could go on and on and on about how our experience in this space over the many years that each of us have worked in this particular industry has given us a specific knowledge of medicine.
And as we're talking about the growth and the leveling up of our team, I think the other huge credit is the third value, which is raise your hand. And this one, very interestingly, every year during our annual strategic planning for our company, part of what we do is look at the values and say, do we love them? And are there any situations that have arisen where we've not had a value to point back to coach, to develop? Is anything missing? And a couple years ago when we did that exercise, we realized there was something missing. We always had 5 values. We had something else in that third spot. And when we really looked at what do we want for our team, and also what is very authentic to our team and what's the best of our team, we realized that this idea of raising your hand, of stepping outside your comfort zone, of essentially volunteering to learn and grow, was something that was already very authentic to our team, but was also kind of scary to people who didn't love the idea of maybe exposing themselves to the opportunity to fail or to make a mistake. And so we thought we really need to encourage people to say, this is how you learn, this is how you grow. And the fact that our values are celebrated, our values are recognized, our values are coached and developed and all of that, we instituted this raise your hand value. And funny enough, it was actually named because there was a team member who came to mind who she is the essence of this value. And the way that she does it on Zoom, when it's we need someone to figure this out. We need someone to go learn about this and bring back to us how we can integrate it. We need someone to, you fill in the blank. She would on Zoom, she would raise her hand and say, I'll do it. And oftentimes it was not something she already knew how to do. It wasn't necessarily something she knew how to tackle, but she was always there to grow. And so this idea of raising your hand is, I think, has added so much to our lineup because, again, our team has leveled up so much in the last couple of years. And in fact, I've now seen people getting really excited and coming to us saying, what can I do better? How can I grow? What should be next for me? Which is so exciting. I love that energy.
The addition of this particular value was, I think, transformative for our team members in their position, what is my job role, but also cross company, which is how do I engage with everyone in the firm? How do I show up with everyone in the firm? And the one that stands out to me the most is in my role as Chief Development Officer. I often am leading some type of development. And there are moments where I am specifically calling on someone,
Yeah.
or I'm giving people the opportunity to raise their hand and be acknowledged so that they can respond. And I believe that instinctively as humans, we don't like to be wrong. And so
Should I say guilty?
guilty, right? And what I have seen is that our team has stretched themselves in a way where they are comfortable
Yeah.
being wrong in front of their peers, in front of the partners in many cases. And it's okay because no one's going to make them feel bad for getting the wrong answer. In fact, they're going to applaud them for taking a chance
Yes.
and maybe getting it partially right, but it needs to be nuanced a little bit. And so what we've seen, right, with Raise Your Hand is not just, hey, I'll take that job that needs to be done, or I'll step in and help cover that meeting, right, when your team member isn't available or you've got competing priorities, or so that one of our team members can go live their wealth that matters, which we're going to talk about in a little while, right? That is this collegial spirit, right, that we see in different values, because it really does kind of go across all values. But, when I think about how physicians are trained and how we train our team members and how I see elite teams function, people offering to take on a task that's outside of their area of expertise that stretches them outside their comfort zone, or that puts them in a position where they could be wrong in front of many people, to me, that's growth like we have never seen.
Yeah. Well, and it grows their capabilities then to ultimately serve physicians and answer those questions. The other thing that I think is really wonderful about this is it gives them the confidence to say to a doctor, I don't know, or I'm not sure, but let me go talk with whoever, one of the partners, a lead advisor, one of my colleagues, and I will get you the answer because I want to make sure that it's the right one.
So glad you added that, because I think one of, again, humans, right? We don't like to look bad in front of other humans. We don't.
Yeah.
And so to be able to say to someone, I have 25 years of experience serving physicians, right? I'm a 55-year-old guy. Most of my partners are younger than me. Most of our team members are younger than me. And I am constantly learning.
Yes.
I get things wrong.
Yeah.
And so to be on the other side of that, to watch them do it, and then to have them in turn teach me that I'm not, it's humbling. And also at the same time, it makes me feel like we're all learning together.
Yeah.
And it's just a different dynamic.
Well, that's that. I mean, one of the things that is so exciting to me about the work that we do, but also so challenging, is that the tax code can just completely change. And so you can be a certified financial planner. You can have all of the courses in tax planning, and you can know very confidently and capably how to do it, only to have it completely change, and you have to get your arms around it all over again, not just to understand it, but also to think about, how does this impact doctors? How are we going to find great opportunities for tax planning, tax saving, tax minimization? What do I now need to report to accountants that's maybe different than before? And so the fact that we have this collaborative learning function also allows us to adapt and be nimble in a more effective manner, because we don't have 23 people who have to go learn the new tax laws or the new estate planning or whatever the case may be. We have a couple who usually lead the charge, and they teach the rest of us. And then we're all able to ask great questions, to learn and grow together. And so the result is we're almost always at the front edge of what we need to know for the next phase of effective physician planning. And it's really because we've turned this place with this raise your hand value, we've turned this company into an organization that doesn't just learn because it's something that checks the box. We learn because we can't help ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so we're switching gears a little bit to move into the fourth value here. And again, if you listen to our prior conversation about our mission to help the highest caliber physicians achieve wealth that matters, this concept of wealth that matters is not new. The piece of it that comes into our values, and I still remember the conversation where we put this on the list, we said, if our mission is to lead doctors to wealth that matters, to help them define it, to help coach them around it, to help challenge them and keep them accountable to it, shouldn't we be leading the way by modeling that? And, there are these like epiphany moment, like these aha moments that you have. And that was one of them for me where it was like, yes, we should. Like, we need to intimately understand what wealth that matters is, how to support each other in that so that we can lead doctors in doing that. And then I think what we found, and I'll actually let you talk more about this, is that our team is so much healthier based on the fact that we celebrate them living the life that's important to them outside of Vestia. And these are some of the hardest workers at work that you will meet, which I think is really important to add because there is an element of having people supported for vacations and sabbaticals and things like that, where you could think like, we're not, is anyone ever here to work? And it's the opposite. We work so hard, but also support our team members to live a very full life.
Yeah. This to me, if you did watch our prior episode, is so integral to everything we do. But to your point, and I think that this starts with the leadership of our firm, which is how do we encourage all of our team members to take care of their own physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health? How do we model that? The way that we model that is even if our MO, even if our instinct is to not take vacation, to work, that what we're doing, even though we're saying we want our team members to do that, they're seeing us do something different. And so there's a tension that would exist. And so as leaders in the firm who work very hard, some who work even harder than others because they've taken on big roles in their life, right? Even outside of work, to say, it's really important for me to take this time off. And oh, by the way, there's lots of data that says you're actually a much better doctor, lawyer, whatever the thing is you do. Mom, right? Dad who stays at home, like whoever you are and whatever role you are, to have that time to go refresh, right? To renew and then come back makes you even better at your job. And so for us as a firm, we as a leadership team have made a commitment that we will do that. We are very clear that there's an expectation that you be away from the office, disconnected, unplugged. We have a sabbatical program that's available and becoming mandatory, as I understand, because we know how important it is for people. For us, we've set up our firm in a way that every team member then wants every other team member to get to have these experiences. And the one that's just stands out to me is we have a team member who got to leave the United States and go overseas for a very long period of time, 3-4 weeks. And She was bound and determined to work every day that she was gone.
This is, by the way, this is her country. Like, this is where her family is.
Yeah.
This is where she's from. She had not been back in a number of years.
Yes.
She'd never taken her husband to this country. And so she really wanted to go and do this. And she didn't want to leave us hanging while she did it.
Which, by the way, speaks to another one of our values, which is never let them guess. But there's ways to never let them guess work on the front end and the back end, right?
Yeah.
So what we wanted for her was, okay, we want you to have this experience, but we really want you to have this experience. So our team members stepped up and filled in the gaps. And the understanding is implicit. And it's an expectation that all of us have, is that she's going to do that for someone else.
What goes around will come around.
All
in the best way.
Comes around in the best way. And to me, that is just, that was a beautiful, extensive, sort of big thing. But I know those will come up again.
Yeah. Well, and I really like what you said, especially for the physicians that are listening, about modeling that, like modeling what's important for your team, because you're absolutely right. If we as leaders did not define, live, message to the team when we were prioritizing life outside of work, because there are seasons where you have to. I'm a mom with 3 little kids. I have to leave early today to go to a thing at the school. And my daughter thought I wasn't going to be able to make it because I didn't know about it until last minute. And when I told her I had moved things around so that I could, largely because my team was like, of course, we'll cover these couple of things. You're going to go watch the thing at the school. The support that she felt and the love that she felt from me, she doesn't feel like she's second to my job because I have I don't want to say permission, but it's because it is part of who we are. It is integrated into our firm and how we run it, that we will prioritize those things. And we support each other in doing that. So I love that you made that point, because I think being able to message that, I think sometimes there is a pressure to hide when you're leaving work and say like, oh, I have to go to another meeting, and not say I'm going to my kid's school for a program, because you don't want anyone to think that you're working less hard or that you're asking them to work when you're not. When in fact, sometimes leading with that can give other people the very permission that they need to be present where they are in their own lives. And you can't replace that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been able to chaperone field trips, to read to my son's class, and all of these things happen right in the middle of my workday. And
usually without ample notice.
Typically. Yeah. Oftentimes I'm hey, can you chaperone? We need another person to cover the field museum trip, right? Is that I'm supported by my team, and my team supports me, my partners support me, and I cover my partners, and I cover my team. And when my team's out, I don't send them direct messages in this thing that I know they're going to read. I drop them an email. I don't want them to see it, right? And
I come back.
Yeah. I go to every other possible resource, right? And there are many. We are a collective. We are a collaborative practice. And so we can all lean on each other to give that other person what they need.
Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, I really think this one is my favorite. If I had to choose a favorite.
I love this one, actually.
Is flying the V formation. And the reason that it is my favorite is because I think without flying the V formation, which we will explain, I don't know that we would have any of the joy that we have in expressing all of the other values. Because I really do think people were built to operate in community. People were built to be supported. And the idea of flying the V formation came from the idea of geese. When they fly, maybe everybody knows this, but I didn't know this in the beginning until I started reading about it. The reason they fly in the V is because there is so much headwind that bird in the front has to fight that they can only do it for a limited amount of time. And then they have to move to the back where they actually pick up all of the tailwinds so that they can coast for a little while and gradually work their way back up to that really hard spot in the lead. And so the idea of, when we talk about what goes around comes around in the best way, to the idea of being able to fly hard, run hard, push hard when it's required, and then fall back and allow other people to continue that momentum so that you can recharge. That is part of this, to celebrate those when they're doing the hard work and also when they're doing that maintenance work. And then the other real key to the group of geese being able to get where they need to go is that they have to be agreed on where they're going. Because if the person in the lead is constantly changing, if I wasn't always doing the work out front, everyone at the company, top to bottom, has to know exactly what the vision is, exactly why we do what we do, so that they can continue doing it when I'm not saying it. And so there has to be a trust. There has to be a level of communication. There has to be a level of buy-in. There has to be a level of trust in order for that team to really be elite and support each other and do everything that they need to get where they all collectively want to go together. And when I think of, I'm getting excited as I'm just talking about it. When I think about the way we run at Vestia, we really do operate in the V formation.
Absolutely.
And I think the energy that comes from that, again, just the true joy. I mean, I love the work that we do. I love the team that we are. I love how we do the work. I love why we do it. And I don't think we'd be able to work as hard as we did if we didn't all share some piece of that.
And what's, there's a couple other things in that same area that I think are really important. One of them is that the leader, right, the visionary of our firm is you, right, in your role as CEO. But that doesn't mean you're always leading.
Right.
I'm leading. Right. Cameron's leading. Like all of our partners are leading. All of our team members are leading. And so what happens in that flock of geese, right, is that there's always somebody out front. So we've got the vision. You don't always have to be leading.
Right.
I don't. Brad doesn't. Right. Like, so everybody gets an opportunity to lead.
Yeah.
And that is how we build better leaders. That is so important, not only for us, but for our clients. Yeah. Because what we're doing is we're creating the next group of leaders of our firm so that we're going to be here to be able to continue to assist you, right? Because I'm older than many of my clients. Now, I plan to work for a while, as we talked about in the last episode, for a variety of reasons, but one of them is longevity, right? So, but still, there will be people that are going to achieve financial independence after hopefully I'm out traveling the world or doing something, right? And so that's critical. The other thing about geese is that in addition to flying in the V formation and then resting as a collective, if one of those geese is injured, two geese go with that injured goose to help protect that goose that's either injured or whatever until they can return to the flock. And so I love that idea of how we then not only move together in the same direction together, change leadership, but we're also there for each other.
Yeah.
I had a horrible thing happen during the pandemic where just on a dime, I needed to be gone for 37 days.
Yeah.
And I just took care, I was taken care of.
Yeah.
And that is how elite teams operate. They care for each other, and they take turns caring for each other when the needs arise. And I think this idea, right, of not just flying in the V formation, but where does the idea of the V formation come from, and then how those individual geese are taken care of is it's a perfect value, and I think the one that drives us the hardest.
I love that. I think that is a great place to end this conversation. This has been so much fun.
Truly such a joy to be able to sit with you here in person.
Yes.
And actually do a podcast together. So thank you.
To be here live. We should make this happen more often.
We should make the Forrest visits to Nashville or the Lauren visits to LA happen more often.
Yes. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We hope that you have enjoyed this as much as we have enjoyed recording it. We hope that it was helpful for you to take a little bit of a glimpse behind the curtain and just understand how we operate and what motivates us and what drives our team. We really do. We're so thankful for all of you who trust us and who have chosen us to lead your families and coach your families on your financial journeys. We do not take that responsibility lightly, and we are so incredibly grateful for all of you. Please do subscribe so that you continue to get. We have a lot of great episodes coming. I referenced one earlier about personal board of directors that I'm really excited to get out to you, and a lot of great interviews to come as well. So please do subscribe so you don't miss those. Once again, I'm Lauren Oschman. Thanks to Forrest Friedow for joining us from Los Angeles here in Nashville for a little while, and we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. We hope today's conversation advanced your journey toward wealth that matters. Make sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our amazing episodes. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Vestia Advisors, LLC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be construed as legal or tax advice and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified attorney or tax advisor. This information is not an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Before investing, you should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses associated with investment products. Investment decisions should be based on an individual's own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Diversification and asset allocation do not ensure a profit or guarantee against loss. Consult your financial professional before making any investments. Investment advisory services offered through Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, and Vestia Advisors, LLC. Securities offered through Osdale Financial Partners, Inc., 5187 Utica Ridge Road, Davenport, Iowa, 52807. Member, FINRA, SIPC. Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, Vestia Advisors, LLC, and Osdale Financial Partners, Inc. are independently owned and operated.